Hi, I'm Dr. Jim Turrell. Welcome to Lesson 3, The Basics of Spiritual Living. And today we're going to be talking about using your authority. And this lesson is really key to your own personal success. So I'm going to be covering the law of attraction, what it is, what it means. I'm going to be covering the power of receptivity, why it's so important. Also, why love rules, and the power of prayer. So let's get started with something Dr. Ernest Holmes wrote about the law of attraction. He wrote, "The Spirit can give us only what we can take. It imparts of itself only as we partake of its nature. It can tell us only what we can understand. The infinite knowingness becomes our wisdom only in such degree as we embody its intelligence. The universal does personify itself through each in varying degrees according to our receptivity to it. If you want something, you must develop the mentality of what you want. The moment you're convinced that something is yours by right of consciousness, you will immediately attract it." Now, I have to tell you why this is so important. It's because I talk to a lot of people that when I say, "What do you want?" they aren't really clear on it. They're just sort of thinking about it. So getting clear on what you want, even visually, mentally, orally, physically, understanding what is it that you want from life, and then put that in mind, in your mentality. And as you develop the awareness of that which you want, and you can begin to feel it and believe it, you will demonstrate it. I guarantee it. That's what the law of attraction does. It always draws to you exactly what you absolutely believe is true about yourself and about how the world works. Now let's talk about receptivity. Ernest Holmes writes, "Life always becomes to us the particular thing we need when we believe that it becomes to us that particular thing. The understanding of this is the essence of simplicity. Stubborn people are willful and demanding. They forget the power of being willing and receptive because they believe that they must create their own good. Life becomes to you what you believe it is. This constitutes your receptivity. Wanting something is an exercise in frustration. You must do the mental work that will create the consciousness of what you desire." Again, receptivity. You know, it's so classically simple, and yet sometimes it's so difficult because our minds are so distracted by other things, distracted by what we dislike, by what we're unhappy with, distracted by resentments, distracted by disappointments. But if you put aside all your disappointments and said, "I'm going to spend the next 24 hours really being receptive to what I know I want from my life," you would be amazed at how things would begin to shift in your thinking and your behavior, intentions, how you think about yourself. And when you make yourself willing and receptive rather than being willful and demanding, you'll be amazed at how life shifts in terms of its ease of giving you exactly what you want. Now you have to understand too that sometimes life has to deconstruct itself. And you've often heard me talk about this. We call it the bud, the bloom, the blossom, and the fall apart. It's a bud, you get an idea, it begins to bloom a little bit, you can see the various concepts coming into being, and then it blooms and opens up, and then guess what? It falls apart. That's because the form never stays the same. Life is always changing. So let's understand what we have to understand about love in order to make that a part of who we are. So let's take a look at what Dr. Ernest Holmes wrote about love rules. In an intelligent study of the teachings of the science of mind, we come to understand that all is love, and yet all is law. Love rules through law. Love is the divine givingness. Love is the way. Love is spontaneous. Law is impersonal. What do you truly love? This is what points the way. There is nothing magical about this. Love is the indicator that tells us what the law will create. Do what you love, and Spirit will provide all that is necessary and more for your complete life. You know, when we think about this, it does seem magical in some respects that what you love, you will demonstrate. And sometimes you love things that are absolutely not the right thing for you, but you love them anyway, and they keep demonstrating over and over again. And you might wonder, how do I get rid of something? Start loving the things you really want. That's the important thing. Identify what you really want and start loving it. Start blessing it. Start being receptive to it. And guess what? That'll point you in the direction of what you need to do to demonstrate what you want. Now let's take a look at the power of prayer. This is so classically important to the basics of a spiritual life. Ernest Holmes writes, "To demonstrate some particular good, you must become conscious of this particular good. You must make your mind receptive to it, and you must do this consciously. There is no hocus pocus in affirmative prayer. We're dealing with intelligence, and we should deal with it intelligently." Do you know the steps to affirmative prayer? Recognition. See spirit in all things. Do not let your eye be tempted by duality. Second step of prayer, unification. Know that you are totally connected with spirit. There is just you and spirit and nothing else. Third step of prayer, declare your good as if it were already so. Fourth step, deny power to any thought that would limit your demonstration in any way. Fifth step of prayer, reaffirm Spirit's power of creation. Sixth step of prayer, thankfulness. Be willing and receptive. Seventh step of prayer, release your word so the law can create your new experience. So here you have these 7 steps. Recognizing God is all there is, or Spirit is all there is, unifying with that idea, declaring it as the principle that functions as your life, denying power to anything that would limit that principle and coming into expression, reaffirming Spirit's power, being thankful and willing to receive, and finally releasing and letting go so the law can do its thing. You know, a spiritual life is not a life of suffering or a life of difficulty. Even though you might go through things that are difficult and you might suffer somewhat, it doesn't last, because the Spirit knows how to bring you through, guide you through, and express your life with absolute certainty. So you can trust Spirit. So remember, the law of attraction will draw it to you the moment you become receptive. And when you understand that what you love is indicating what you really want, then start to love what you really want. And don't forget the power of prayer. Keep praying every day. So let's do a little prayer work right now, as a matter of fact. And here's the prayer for lesson 3. The authority of love is always in charge. God's personal power is now the attraction. All thoughts are of God. Of God is in my thought. Receptive to my highest ideal, God now moves through me in a delightfully illuminating pattern of thought. Only love can rule here, and only love can attract. In this moment, I am the unlimited attraction. God's greatest pleasure is to see my life fulfilled in the authority of God's perfect peace. Powerful and peaceful, I accept my good and use my life constructively. I consider it my right to live and to enjoy living. I am surrounded by infinite possibility. So let's set our intentions this week. First day. Today I challenge myself to believe in a greater life. Today I set the law of mind into action by attracting to myself all that is necessary for my new and greater life. Today I work to build my level of conviction. Today I'm receptive to my higher good. I refuse to be tempted by low curiosity or negative thinking. Today I remember that love points the way and that the law fulfills. Today I practice my affirmative prayer work. I refuse to live in fear. I'm happy to declare a fantastic life. It is mine to declare. Today, I eliminate all hocus pocus and recognize that God is the intelligence of my life. Today, I unify with God's perfect power and reveal the inner guide that directs my every action, thought, and word. And finally, today, I am thankful for all my good, all of my blessings, all of my life. That's the way it is when you pray, that you become more thankful, more receptive, and more willing. That's the key to living a successful spiritual life. See ya. God bless you. I want to welcome you to lesson 4 of the basics. And this is demonstrating your good. And there's going to be 4 things we're going to talk about in this particular lesson. Number 1, making God a tangible experience. Number 2, healing, chaos, and facts. Number 3, how do you handle negative people? And number 4, freedom, happiness, activity, and power. So, let's get started. Dr. Ernest Holmes writes the following: if there is any field of research where the practical application is necessary, it is in the metaphysical field. The reason being that the principle of metaphysics seems less tangible to the average person than does the principles of other sciences. Its apparent intangibility is lessened whenever and wherever anyone actually demonstrates the supremacy of spiritual thought force over apparent material resistance. We must forever build our conviction by proving the power of our word. We must daily declare our good until we demonstrate the complete and total answer solution we seek. We must never be afraid to speak our word with the complete knowing that what we desire is already done. I know that sometimes it's difficult to have that interior sense of confidence that what you say goes. But you know, when you're a person of your word and you really understand that your word is attached to this extraordinary power that's within you, that you can demonstrate anything that you can truly believe in, then you can make that tangible leap from just faith to actually the experience of faith. And that's how you make God a tangible experience, by knowing that you're speaking your word and identifying what's good for you. Now, a lot of people don't take time to actually think of themselves in terms of a better life. A lot of people wait for crisis before they even pray. Not a smart idea. You really want to focus on building the mental idea of what goodness looks like inside your mind. Goodness not just for you, but for the entire world around you, for your friends, for your family, and yes, even your enemies. I know that's hard to understand, but even Jesus was a great believer that you got to learn how to love your enemies. Best way to do that is to pray for them. Now let's move on to healing, chaos, and facts. Dr. Ernest Holmes writes, the original spirit is harmony. It is beauty and truth and everything that goes with the ultimate reality. The universe is not divided against itself. We should be able to look a discordant fact in the face and deny its reality, since we know its seeming reality is borrowed from illusion, from chaos and old night. There is no room for disbelief if you want to demonstrate your highest and greatest good. The universe exists in absolute harmony, and we must align ourselves daily to the inner voice of love, peace, and joy. These are the principles which reveal the truth to all who are committed to living in the freedom of divine intelligence. Sometimes when you got to heal the chaos or the disturbance in your own mind, it's because there is an illusion inside you. There is something manifesting itself within your own thinking patterns, which could have its roots in old emotional memories, or could have its roots in the emotional memories of the world around you. It's hard to say, but we do know this, that when those illusions loom up and you begin to feel that fear, it's absolutely important that you dismiss it immediately. It is your disbelief that will keep you from entering into heaven. That is a wonderful biblical concept, but it's true. And it's also true that this original idea of who you are, that created you, is in perfect harmony. It's never been out of harmony. So it's very important that you return to that originating harmony within you. And that is really a process of meditation. So it's very important you learn how to be still and know. And finally, to represent and to understand that you're working with principles, not circumstances, not conditions, but with principles. And when we talk about principles, we're talking about things like love, peace, and joy. These are magnificent principles. When you stand in love, when you come from peace, when you express joy, there is nothing that the world will not give you if you're sincere about it. Now, handling negative people. Dr. Ernest Holmes writes, we must stop and declare images of limitation are neither person, place, nor thing, that they have no power, personality, nor presence, and no real law to support them. Fill your thought with the idea of faith, the expectancy of good, and the realization of plenty. When your mind is trained, it will automatically edit your understanding. Until then, you must consciously monitor your thoughts. It takes a steady diet of constructive ideas to clarify the confusion, judgment, and limitation of an untrained mind. Such clarity is the product of a spiritual approach that recognizes the importance of a continual study and committed application of the truth. Boy, I'll tell you, nothing was more right on the money. You got to be committed to applying the truth consistently, no matter what happens. Now, I know sometimes that's difficult because sometimes conditions and circumstances just overwhelm us, but not necessary that you should be overwhelmed if you've trained your mind to say, I'm not going there. You know, sometimes when you have a little dog, a little puppy dog, that little puppy dog goes wherever it wants to go. And an untrained mind is just like a little puppy dog. It goes wherever it wants to go. It's important that you give it boundaries, that you give it definition, and you give it clarity. And the way you do that is by constructively giving it things that are constructive to you personally. It is not constructive to think in resentment, to think in fear, to think in doubt, to think in disbelief. You must train your mind. Freedom, happiness, activity, and power. Let's see what Dr. Ernest Holmes wrote. A new light is coming into the world. We are on the borderland of a new experience. The veil between spirit and matter is very thin. The invisible passes into visibility through our faith in it. Happy are we if we see that these things, which from the foundation of the human race have been longed for by all aspiring souls. Make a promise to yourself to awaken every day to an even greater magnificence than yesterday. See through the haze of prejudice, anger, and unhappiness. Let the principles of life, love, and light inform you of what is possible. Release all fear and enter the powerful presence of divine love. Boy, you know, this is a great lesson because if you really want to demonstrate your good, and I know you do, you've got to get it behind this promise to yourself. Really make a promise to yourself that you're going to follow that principle of love, and no matter what happens, no matter how afraid you might get, know this, that perfect love casteth out all fear. Once you let love inform you, it will tell you of a life that's unbelievable in some respects, but it's not unlivable. And it's totally believable once you start to imagine a greater experience of love. Do that for me today. Promise that to yourself, and let's go into this prayer. Here's the prayer. I have returned. In full circle, I now see God's truth in all of my thoughts and activities. The reality of God's abundance is now my reality. The freedom of God's love is now my freedom. There is no purpose or power in discordant or chaotic thoughts. My truth includes everyone and sets all free to express the highest and the best. I know only the good. My love of God is the only power I use. Freedom, happiness, and the activity of life now correspond to my thinking. I am released. I am now healed. Today, I challenge myself to build my conviction by speaking and believing that my word is law. Today, I work to see the harmony in all of life. Facts cannot confuse me. Only the truth prevails. Today, I remember that a trained mind and a disciplined thought can create clarity, goodness, and perfect joy. Today, I practice my ability to think magnificent thoughts and creative ideas. In all that I do, the divine is with me. Today, the original nature of who God created me to know reveals itself in all of its magnificence. Today, I align myself with God's perfect mind. My mind is God's mind in action. Today, I feel the light and love, the life God has created for me. Today, God created a life for you. God created a life for you to live, and fully and richly, I expect you to just be there with God all day long. Remember, you are never alone. God is with you now. Demonstrate your good. Work at it. God bless you.